all the breaking news and the big issues every week in the world of football and sport.
Just send me the T-shirt, will you?
Well, we'll see what happens today.
Off the Bench with Hutchie and Rooch. Thursday night from 7 on 5AA.
Interactive Radio. Tweet at 1395 5AA. Peter Godfrey.
Let's head across the ditch now, taking a look at what's happening for our Kiwi cousin, Selwyn Manning, livenews.co.nz. How are you, Selwyn?
Yeah, very good, Peter.
And how's things looking in Auckland this morning?
Pretty rainy, actually. We're looking for a couple of days of stormy rain.
We're paired up again. Same with us. We've got about 20 mils on the forecast, possibly, or as much as 20 mils today.
Okay, what we're seeing is, real strong signs of spring, which it should be in September, but also seeing some early signs of summer coming through. I think that, the trees are pretty confused. There's a tree here that they call the New Zealand Christmas tree, but its proper name is the Pahutakawa tree. And then just before Christmas, traditionally, it starts coming out in this deep crimson blossom.
Yeah.
Kind of like a bottle brush. Some of the Western Australian kind of trees are similar in a way. Now, you can see some of them in the park not far from where I am at the moment, and they're just starting to show some of those flowers coming through. So it's months early.
Yeah, okay.
I don't know what that's all about.
There we go. Very confusing. Yeah. Very confusing. Well, we've got signs of it here with New South Wales with bushfires already in the last week. So,
oh wow,
that's the scary side of it all.
Yeah.
Let's get on to some news. Plenty of politics. Whether we're over politics here or not, I don't know.
I was just going to say that just when you guys are thinking, oh, thank goodness we've got no politics on the radio, then this blooming Kiwi comes along and dishes up another serving of it.
Yes. What we got to talk about first up this morning, some reforms in regard to your laws dealing with natural resource and management of the environment. So the Nationals were looking at reforming that. Give us some background on it. What sort of reforms were they looking at?
Yeah, I guess to start with, New Zealand, very conscious, obviously, of trying to preserve that natural environment and resource that it has, particularly when it's attracting tourism and all this other stuff, and also when it's trying to export stuff as well. Yeah. And back in the 80s, it created this law called the Resource Management Act, which was there to preserve all sorts of things. If you going to do if a property developers going to do a new subdivision, there's all these things that they have to kind of comply with, even things right down to the water that would naturally collect on that space of land has to actually be dealt with on that space of land, things like that, It's right down to it, the fisheries, all of that type of thing comes under it, particularly in that development area. Now, the Nationals, when they got into power, they were driving up the expectation amongst those kind of groups that support it, like property developers, businesses, etc., that they would reform the Resource Management Act and become, and has and still remains, an act which, for a lot of people, there's a bureaucratic nightmare around it. Mm-hmm. Now, the Nationals really capitalised on that, but what they're doing and they did one kind of tier of reform that satisfied some, but not all of their supporters. Now, what they're doing at the moment is they're wanting to come through, which many are saying, with a law that will get away with, it'll take away the essence of the actual intent of the thing in the first place, meaning that it'll be, if a property developer comes in, wants to look at clearing some land, etc., they can basically just go in there with a saw or chainsaw and take down all of these. Okay. So there's a concern that it's going to actually change New Zealand significantly. Now, what's happening? What's interesting here is, remember, the Nationals here in New Zealand are on a knife edge for support in the Parliament. They don't have 50%, so they're reliant on a couple of, three parties to basically get them over the line when they want to make a law. Those three parties have traditionally remained pretty loyal. One of them's the Māori Party, which is a centrist kind of position. There's United Future, which is the party of one guy, or in Parliament, that is, Peter Dunn. He's in the centre area as well. And on the other side, on the far right side of economic far right, is the ACT Party. Now, it gets the support on this type of thing, obviously, from the ACT Party because it wants to look after its business mates. But the Māori Party and United Future, they're against this thing totally. So the government, the Nationals and government, don't have the numbers to get through a law that their own supporters are basically demanding that they do so. And that's starting to get to a stage where the Nationals really, on these big issues that they need to get through to sustain the support from those that cough up donations, those that are working the wine and dine sessions all over the country with them. They need them on side, and this kind of thing can break that down.
Break that down. So the shine is definitely fading from John Key. Clearly, then is.
Yeah, remember, you guys have obviously just voted in a similar kind of government over in Australia, and it's all shiny, ready to go, and the enthusiasm's right there, and you can see them chomping at the bit, wanting to get into those Treasury benches and get moving. Over here, well, we've had the Nationals in since 2008. So they're coming up for election again next year, and it still has a lot of support compared to any other party.
Right.
But that proportion to get over the 50% is starting to wane, and it doesn't have the support. The public is not giving the support to its parties that are its mates that are wrapped around it. So if it's going to win next year, then it's got to be almost on its own strength. And under the MMP here, our system here of electing, no one party has ever got over the 50%.
Okay.
Yeah.
Let's move on to your Labor Party. Whilst we're on the various parties, they were seeking a new leader last week when we spoke. That process is still ongoing, but coming to a conclusion?
Yes, coming to a conclusion on Sunday. Apparently the result of this will be announced at midday on Sunday. Now, what's been going on here is the leader of the Labor Party here in New Zealand was having a hard time of it. We mentioned that a couple of weeks ago. He ended up resigning. The poll results were pretty poor traditionally under his leadership. His name was David Shearer. He formerly came from UN positions in Somalia. He was in war zones in Iraq, etc., and up in Lebanon. A lot of backstory, a lot of cred in those areas, but he just couldn't foot it in the political arena as a leader. He remains in Parliament at this stage at least. But what's happened since then is the Labor Party has basically had like a US primary type of campaign, where you've got three candidates that are putting their hand up saying, I want to be the leader, I reckon we can knock John Key, the Prime Minister, off his perch next year. And they've been going flat out all over the country. They need 40% support. 40% of the vote comes from their own caucus, the other MPs. 40% comes from the party members themselves, and the remaining 20% from the union, affiliate unions in the country. So they've been going around talking to those kind of groups. And what's coming through here is very much, if they get into power and they lead a new government, that it will be a very much more an interventionist type of government. What you would see from Australia's end is most likely if Labor got in here, quite different to your Labor Party over in Australia. These guys are saying we're going to move to the left of the economic spectrum. We're going to have more regulation in different areas to sort out the problems that have developed under this hands-off type government that we've had under the Nationals. They're also saying foreign policy-wise, regional policy-wise, New Zealand would edge back to a more independent type of a country as opposed to just following on the coattails of the United States and Australia. So all those changes are possible next year. So they're big issues. Yeah, and the front runner at the moment, it does look like it is David Cunliffe, who's a dynamic MP who's been probably due to his own talents, has kind of been pushed to the side of his own party from in recent times due to being a threat to the leadership. There's also Grant Robertson, who is a dynamic candidate as well here. He could easily be a Prime Minister in New Zealand. He's an openly gay guy in a gay relationship, and some say that may go against him. Obviously, most New Zealanders celebrate, this equality. We just passed a law that said anybody, irrespective of their gender, can be married. So, it's a moot point, I think, generally in this day and age. And there's Shane Jones, who's taking a more radical stance. He's more in the centre-right area of the Labor Party, and he's basically taking a real blokes kind of approach to the campaign. So it looks like David Cunliffe or Grant Robertson will be the leader on Sunday, I think.
Okay, well, we could throw in a few wildcards because we've got a few ex-Labor MPs over here that are out of jobs that might be looking for something. Well, they'd probably be going cheap too.
We've got an Australian guy that's leading the Green Party over here, a guy called Russell Norman, who's he's a dynamic character and certainly brings an intellect to the house. So maybe we could do with a few of you, but not the cast-offs, Peter. Some of the
okay. I was thinking maybe Kevin Rudd might be looking for something with a bit more responsibility than a backbencher in the
maybe
on the opposition benches.
Maybe Kevin Rudd's got a cocktail circuit kind of thing he can do to bring in a bit of coin. I'm sure there are a few Kiwis that would turn up.
You never know. You never know. Goodness me. And finally, let's get on to sport, the rugby. You've got it's happening in Auckland. Is it this weekend with the Springboks and the All Blacks?
It is, yes.
Oh, gee, we'd be torn over here. Thumped by the Springboks last weekend. Thumped a couple of weeks back by the All Blacks. Which way do we turn?
Well, the bookies over, true. The bookies over here, they're saying that they're putting money on the saying that the Springboks might do it.
Okay. Well, they're claiming sort of underdog status, aren't they? I think.
Oh, they are a bit, but then again, the Springboks are on a 10-match winning run.
Okay.
The All Blacks they went too flash against Argentina last week. They won obviously, but the big thing here is that they're playing at Eden Park. If some people think a park and the audience at a park with, the people in the grandstands make a difference. The All Blacks have not won a game at Eden Park in Auckland in 19 years.
Is that right? Okay.
So if the Springboks do it, you'll see people weeping in the aisles, Peter. It'll be the end of the world.
Yeah. Well, we may not be watching this weekend because we got our own football finals coming up, and the one local team that's left in is going in as a bit of the underdog, although they had a good win last week. So we'll probably be watching that this weekend, I think.
Yeah, we'll forgive you for that, Peter. No doubt we'll be crowing if we won. You won't hear from us if we don't.
Yeah, exactly. All right, Selwyn, thank you so much for this morning. Have a great week, and we will talk to you again next week.
Okay, take care.
Cheers, mate. Bye-bye. Selwyn Manning in New Zealand. You can head to livenews.co.nz for a whole lot more besides. It is 28 minutes past 5. Thanks for your company tonight. We've covered a lot of ground as we always do. Been a lot of fun too. Thank you for all your calls, texts and emails. Look forward to your company again at midnight tonight. Stay tuned. Coming up after the news at 5:30 with Anne Stone. Breakfast, Leith Forest takes you through into breakfast with Keith Conlon and Jane Riley. Have a great Thursday. Stay dry if you can.
The Heart Foundation is leading the fight against heart disease. So this September, when our Big Heart Appeal volunteers knock on your door, please give generously or donate today at heartfoundation.org.au/bigheart, because your big heart really can help others.
September is Breathing Better Month at Chem Plus. Is your school, childcare,